let's get into it.
All right.
I've been thinking about these days with so much stuff going on at the national level that it's easy for us to kind of lose our way, I think, with regard to social impact spaces. And I've been reflecting on this idea, like, what are those like most important elements that we should be holding on to, perhaps with your life in this particular day and age? And I wanted to throw that over to you and sort of get what ideas you have, and we can maybe go back and forth.
All right. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the opportunity, which I always take to throw the ball back in your court, Peter. So go ahead.
One of my, I don't know if this is a pet peeve or what this is, but I think one of the things I've noticed in social impact is there's a real focus on organizations and ideas, which I think is great. But what gets lost in that, I think, is a focus on people and leaders and individual skill sets. And I've seen plenty of projects, including on a project we're working right now, where they're kind of two parallel initiatives, and one really seemed to excel, and another one sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, floundered. And what I can tell, and I'm not closely related to these kinds of initiatives, it was really a matter of kind of leadership and the staff capacity. And do we spend enough time and effort and energy and focus in really investing in people and investing in particular leaders with particular skill sets and helping them build and scaffold those skill sets? Your thoughts? That's my first one.
Yeah, I appreciate the focus on people because my list of things really starts with us as individuals in this work. We show up in social impact work and just in the world in general as individuals. And I feel like just going to lump them together, kind of. The two things that we really need to be focusing on are the ability to see the truth and speak the truth. And the ability to see the truth starts with, I guess I would say it starts with courage, which is also helpful in the ability and willingness to speak the truth. But it's hard to look at some things about ourselves. It's uncomfortable. The work of introspection, the work of seeing our blind spots, acknowledging our biases, acknowledging the spaces where we still need to grow. I mean, I remember attending like a professional development, like leadership development experience, I'll call it, for nonprofit professionals. And as we were going through some of the sessions, including one specifically about talent and leadership, I thought about one of my former bosses and how she didn't need this workshop. She needed therapy. This is just my opinion, but she needed direct guided support to look at some of the things that made her tick the way that she did and show up, to staff in the way that she did. Like the reason, someone might have been crying at their desk wasn't because she missed this workshop. It was because, of some of the things that maybe she wasn't able to look at within herself with support.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. And I think that kind of is what has kept one of the things that's kept me engaged over sort of working on these issues for decades is I hope that is that personal growth and that self-reflection. And I hope I've retained that. I think what gets me up in the morning is just like, okay, how am I going to be challenged today and how can I grow today? Sort of extending that and building on that, I think is also this wanting to see, I wish there was more investment like there is in the entrepreneurial space in people and not just ideas. The assumption often seems to be, and I perhaps am guilty of this, hey, if you have the idea, you must be qualified to execute it. And I've seen this fall apart time and time and time again, where people have great ideas, but they don't either have the team or the individual skill sets or whatever to execute those ideas. And I think we need to look more deeply in terms of like, hey, putting those teams together, number one, and or scaffolding people, right, with new skills and new experiences and new perspectives to achieve those kinds of grand ideas that we're out there trying to make happen.
Yes, and going back to a conversation that we started ages ago, when we started this series on strategic planning, I'm thinking back to this idea of the reason sometimes organizations or people within that organization jump to, hey, we need to bring someone in to help us vision. Hey, we need to bring someone in to help us plan is while people want to be looking forward, or building something new, they're not willing to look at the things that keep them stuck. And one of the things that I appreciate about our shared intention with our practice is to encourage people, support people in that journey of saying, what's really going on here? Before we look ahead and go there, what's going on right here?
Yes, yes. And one of the other things, sort of related to what you said, that's been on my mind. The second thing is this idea of investing in people and paying more attention to individual leadership kind of capacity is systems thinking. And I think that kind of relates to what you say about sort of, I think how you phrase it was sort of seeing the truth or speaking the truth. To me, that system thinking is part of that truth telling, that truth seeing, right? Because systems thinking and systems diagramming and systems innovation, whatever you want to call it, systems design, requires that it requires that we try to see things larger than our own immediate perspective or our own immediate connections. And I think it's actually sort of super important with regard to sort of what you're saying. And I think they sort of go hand in hand. When you look at the system, oftentimes you see truths if you're doing it with the right intention that perhaps you didn't see before. And some of those truths can be contradictory or kind of contradicting your initial thinking, which makes it even more difficult.
Yes. And I think part of our work, and it's built into our model, is selling people on the idea that it is worthwhile to see those things that maybe they've overlooked or chosen to overlook as part of this, what you're calling systems mapping process.
Yeah, 100%. The third thing that's been on my mind, I've been thinking about is this idea of, for lack of a better term, scenarios. By which I mean is like, how do we help people see the future? And I think sometimes for instance, underestimate people's ability to sort of what I call generative thinking or imaginative thinking or whatever the case may be. Hey, what does this idea look like if it's successful 3 years from now? And it's like, let's project ahead. And I kind of learned that it's kind of something I equate to design school. When I was in design school, I realized that certain people could imagine three-dimensional objects in their heads and kind of rotate those objects around and see them from all directions inside their head. And other people just couldn't do it. And it wasn't a matter of intelligence. It was just like this matter of ability. And I think the same thing goes with parallel parking. Those people that can do the three-dimensional thing in their head can also parallel park really well. And the ones that can't tend to be struggle with parallel parking. Interesting observation of it over the years. But this idea, like, how do we show people, and from like a visual point of view, like from a whatever that I've worked on green infrastructure issues and smart grid issues and food issues, and a lot of times we talk, but we struggle to paint sort of a vivid, or accurate, dare I say, or future looking kind of picture that can engage people in a meaningful way.
I mean, for me, this comes back to the willingness to see the truth and speak the truth, and kind of in the sense of they both relate to courage. And there's
Mm.
even within myself, sometimes there's an inherent tension or challenge when it comes to visioning the future. That can be scary because so many what ifs and things can come up. And the question for me is how, through through support and facilitation, you create a space where people are willing and able to go there. Now, I'm one of the people who would struggle to like imagine the three-dimensional object in my mind. Like I'm definitely one of those people who struggles. But beyond that very practical sense, like how do we create spaces in which people, I guess, I don't know if this is exactly the right term, where they feel safe, where they feel equipped to look towards the future. Because like the blockages, the stuff that gets in the way, like we help them set that aside.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We have about 45 seconds left. I think it's really interesting, this idea of there may be elements that you and I both identified, but I think you also go to this other part. Hey, there's prerequisites for pursuing these elements, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned courage and the idea of like self-introspection and things like that. And I think that's another. It's not just about, hey, you need to do this, but we have to. It's how we do it and what qualities we need and what elements we need to do it. Any final words in the last 30 seconds?
No, I think this is a conversation that could only have developed or evolved with like a certified life coach and a designer. Like that's the positions that we have.
We're taking it to the street. That's it for now. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Janae.